Hello again, beautiful artists, and welcome back to another episode of Paint Along with Skye. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Skye, and I post beginning level acrylic tutorials here on YouTube every Saturday. So hit subscribe if you'd like to join the fun and paint along. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video. Okay, it's a gorgeous fall day here in the Pacific Northwest, so I have a lovely Pacific Northwest landscape fall themed gray day delicious painting for you guys today. I'm using my 3 standard brushes. The colors that I have on my palette, I have a bright orange, which I'm actually going to use to mix brown for this first step, just for a little bit, and then I have an ultramarine blue and white and black. Again, 3 standard brushes. Check the description box below for a more detailed materials list of everything that you will need to paint along. This painting, like many of the other ones, is going to be done in 2 parts. So there's going to be a break halfway through. So these are the colors that I'm just going to use for that first part of the painting. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's grab our biggest square brushes. And I like to start out a lot of paintings with a horizon line. So that's going to give us some nice placement here. So what I'm going to do is essentially cut this painting right in half with a grayish blue. Okay, so I'm just going to mix blue and white together. So pretty. And then I'm just going to grab a hint of black just to make it a little bit gray. That might be a little bit on the dark side. Okay, and then just cutting the canvas right in half. I have to go over it a few times. That kind of helps me eventually get a pretty straight line. Beautiful. Okay, and now I'm going to take another little diagonal line here and just kind of create another little sense of place for myself, which is going to be the little beach here. So just a curved line, slightly creating a nice little shoreline there for yourself. So now we actually have 3 different areas. So we have our sky, we have our water, and then we also have our little shoreline here. And then we're also going to do some mountains, and this is going to be the last step as far as blocking everything out. Now you can still use that same big brush, or you can use a smaller brush if you prefer, and the same color is totally fine because we're going to be adding some of this bluish gray color in pretty much all of these areas, so it's totally fine to just use this like you would use kind of like a pencil or something. And what we're going to do is start maybe about a third of the way up here in this top part. We're going to create a beautiful mountain range for ourselves. Now it can be steep or gentle, however you like. Okay, beautiful. Now look at that. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white and mix it into that beautiful grayish blue color. I just love that color. And I'm going to use my big brush to go ahead and start filling in some of these shapes that I've made for myself. So the first area to be filled in is going to be my water. And I'm just going to be using back and forth brush strokes here. A little bit of water helps the paint go nice and smooth. And I'm going to allow there to be a little bit of gradation happening here from this darker horizon line color. That gives it a nice little sense of space. And then I'm also allowing there to be a little bit of variation as far as the consistency of the color. So you can see there's a little bit of gray in here, you know, those areas of streakiness. That is a good thing. Very nice. And then you can come along your shoreline here. You want to make sure that you still have the brush strokes going all horizontally. Nice. Even if you pull into the shoreline a little bit, that's okay, because you're going to come back in there with some brown and get that all nice and cleaned up. Okay, now let's take that same brush and pretty much the same colors, only maybe just a little bit more blue to start. And I'm going to use a different type of texture here and go all the way across the top part here. And I'm going to add a little bit of white And pull that down slightly. Similar to this gradation, only it's like a different texture. And then again, I'm just gonna have a tiny little hint of gray. You don't wanna go too dark with the gray. So we're not doing rain clouds per se. This is sort of like fogginess. Okay, a little bit of white in there makes a nice illusion of clouds. A little bit of maybe some thunderheads poking out with some white. And you can come right down to your mountain line. That's looking good. A little bit of fogginess, a little bit of thunderheads. Very typical, gorgeous Pacific Northwest kind of day. Maybe this is a river. Maybe it's the ocean or a sea. A little bit more gray over there I decided to add just to kind of break it up, make it a little bit more interesting. Can be however you like, just kind of play around with those colors. It's cool, the colors are really close by as far as tone as well, so go ahead and just play with it. You're not gonna get anything too muddy. So that's looking really good. Now let's go ahead and take our medium-sized brush, and now we're going to do the mountains. I'm going to grab a little bit more blue and a little bit more black, and I'm going to essentially make a darker version of that gorgeous steely blue-gray. And then I'm just going to take that color up into the mountains, making a nice clean line where it touches the sky. Okay. And then you're just going to fill that in as well. I'm just going to use my medium-sized brush for that as well. Could use your big brush, I suppose, if you're feeling impatient. But if you're feeling impatient, then you need to just chill out, because that's not a good mindset to be painting in, I've found. Really, it is a mindfulness practice for sure. Slowing myself down even as I say that. Okay, we want a nice straight line, as straight as we can, going across our horizon. And just ever so slightly coming into that blue. Nice. Okay. And then just again filling it in. I'm going to fill it in kind of messy like. There's a little bit of texture on there. Sort of like the brush strokes for the sky. Just getting the brush moving, creating some interest. And as usual, a little bit of water always helps everything go nice and smooth. Soaking it into the canvas texture. Very nice. Okay, and then our final step before we take a quick little drying break is going to be our shore. So far, this is already looking really cute. I'm totally feeling it. Let's go ahead and just make a brown real quick. I'm just going to do that by taking my orange and mixing it with blue, and then adding a little bit of white and black. You should be able to get a pretty good kind of sandy warm brown with that. If you're having a hard time mixing brown, you can always just buy brown. That works just fine. But I like to mix from primaries. Makes it a little bit more exciting, I think. Okay. And again, you want a nice clean line where your sections, your areas meet here. like so. Keeping the brush strokes kind of in the direction of the shape. This is where our little fall tree is going to be. So now we have all of our little areas filled in and looking good. And now I'm going to grab a little bit of white. I'm just going to kind of put it in there just to create some interest along the shore. Like so. Okay. A little bit of streakiness, kind of just blending right on the canvas. All right, that looks great. Let's go ahead and let this dry, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna add a whole bunch more and really finish everything off nicely. So I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back, artists. I have a dry background. I'm going to jump right in to the next layer. Let's go ahead and grab our smallest brush, and I'm going to be using some black. So I have black and white here on my fresh palette. Also the same ultramarine blue again, and orange, and then I've also put some yellow. Let's go ahead and work over here on our right hand side. Right on the top of the horizon line, you're going to do a thin black line. And this is going to be the shore across, whether this be the river or the, fjord, if you will, just a common geological formation here in the Pacific Northwest. So we have these islands and beautiful little inlets and rivers and stuff all over the place, and lots of lakes. And then, so we've come out about halfway, and then you're gonna kind of work your way up and just create like the tiniest little flat version of like the mountain range above it for the shoreline. And then on this beautiful shoreline, we're gonna put some trees. So my first tree is going to be the tallest over here on the right. And I'm going to kind of work my way across, creating some smaller trees. And now from the very top part of these lines, you just kind of flick your brush out to the side like so. And that's how you create these nice little trees. And you want to have the trees be a little bit fatter when you get to the bottom. So this is definitely something that you will develop over time. Might be a little bit tricky at first. Keep those brush strokes really light and do some practicing first before you add it onto your painting if you're feeling a little uneasy. And some little trees. Those might be smaller trees, or they could also just be trees that are further back. Just little tiny brush strokes. Little taps, adding not too much black to where we lose all of the mountain behind us. Okay, and then maybe there's some greenery that kind of pokes from a bigger tree that's coming off the side. Okay, and then a little bit of reflection of those trees as well, right underneath where they are. So these are going to be just horizontal brush strokes right underneath where the trees would be. Okay, looking good. Now I'm going to rinse that baby brush. I'm going to kind of work my way over. Now I'm going to be working in the center part, and I'm going to add my beautiful sailboat, which I think is my favorite part of this painting. Going to be using gray for this. Black and white together, still that same small brush. And we're going to start with the hole. You don't want to come too far down or too far up. It's definitely not sitting right on the horizon. And if it's too close to you and too far down, it's going to not have the right perspective. So ideally, you're going to want to have your boat with the sail kind of coming up into the mountains and the hole down here in the water. Okay, so I'm going to be eyeballing it right about there. And I'm going to start at the bottom with a straight line. So this is actually a similar sailboat that I have like the outline of as a silhouette in some other paintings. So you'll kind of notice, you know, the repetitive themes in my painting, and sailboat is one of these. So it's gonna have a little bit of like a tapered front part, and then you've come down and then straight again for a little bit, and then curving at the back part of the boat. And I'm just kind of filling that in with gray, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of black and just really quick do an outline, and then also just a few lines from the back and from the front, just giving that a little bit of depth. I'm going to take that gray, and similar to how I added the reflection over on my trees, I'm going to add a little bit of reflection of the boat as well. And it comes from behind as well as in front of. Okay, like so, looking adorable. I'm going to rinse my brush just so I don't have too dark of a color on here and too much paint. Rolling it into that gray very gently, and while I'm resting my hand I'm actually resting it on my easel, which I had this great tabletop easel, which by the way, I'll put a link below because it really has been super convenient to have. I used to just paper my table, and I really love having this easel. Even just not having to use paper has been great. So using that as a brace, you can also use your hand as a brace if you need to, creating a pretty much perfectly perpendicular line. So straight up and down, coming to pretty much the center of that boat. And that's going to be your mast. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit further. And then I'm going to rinse my brush and come in with some white. Going to have on the right side, I'm going to have a triangle, long triangle, comes right alongside the gray line. And then in the front, it's a little bit trickier. You want to do a curved line, like so. And then a curved line because the boat is going that way. It's getting pulled here by the wind. Okay, and then filling in that shape with the white. And we have our beautiful little sails. Very gentle, like so. And then also the back one. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush. That's pretty cute. Pretty good. And then a little bit of a dark gray. Going to do an outline of the sail, just so it doesn't get lost. And then it's going to also attach to the boat at the bottom here. Just sort of the suggestion, like we know how to sail, which is about how much I know how to sail. I know the idea of it. If I was put in a sailboat in an emergency situation, I could for sure figure it out. I would love to learn to sail. This is sort of my imagination of that. And then I'm gonna bring actually this mast up a little bit higher too, than I initially planned, just because that's how tall my sails ended up. And then last little touch here in the boat, I like to make it look like there's like, you know, some stuff inside there. So just kind of squiggle my brush with a little bit of black and then a little bit of white. These are tiny details, folks, with my brush as well on the sort of inner part of the bottom part of the boat. And actually, because I can't really see my mast very well, I think I might take even like a darker black. I really want to be able to see that. There we go. And shadow. So let's go ahead and shadow the whole side. Okay. Looks good. Very cute. And then a little bit of reflection in this boat as well. That was definitely the hardest part of the painting. So give yourself a pat on the back if you just did that. Also, if you are painting along, I've created a Facebook group called the Art Club. And it's actually, we're growing pretty fast. I'm really, really happy about it. Having a lot of fun over there. And we share our work, whether it be from painting along or from your own studio. So check that out if you're painting along. I'd love to see you over there. I added a few just brush strokes of white underneath, similar again to like the reflection over here. And then I'm just gonna leave that boat alone because it looks pretty cute. Like it could look better maybe, but when in doubt, just leave it out and leave it alone. That's my motto. All right, let's go ahead and see. Let's do the base of our tree. So again, we're kind of working our way over. I'm going to use my medium-sized brush again, and we're going to mix up that brown. So very similar brown to the one that we used for the shoreline. So if you remember, it's going to be orange, and then we're going to neutralize that with some blue, and then add a little bit of black and white to tone it down. That's going to create a nice brown color. You can even add a little bit of yellow if you'd like. Make a nice neutral tone. The reason that works is because blue and orange are across from each other on the color wheel. I'm going to have more information about the color wheel and color theory in my upcoming course, which will be ready when it's ready. It's hard to do, but it's beautiful. And it's coming along nicely. Okay. Sorry, I can't have a definitive date. I'm just gonna stop promising. Okay, so with this medium-sized brush, I'm going to start at the base of my tree and just kind of build the trunk first. And then I usually like to just have kind of two main branches. But your tree can be however you like. You could even make like a spooky one since it is so close to Halloween. Just doing like a nice little fall tree. Really simple. This is actually similar to my cherry blossom tree that I have a tutorial with Q-tips actually to do the blossoms, since the blossoms are so small and delicate. So I'm gonna do like some side branches now off of the main branches. Just building them however you like. Like so. You can use your tiny brush if you need a little bit more control. Don't forget to have a tiny bit of water always mixed into your paint. Nice. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like that. And then I'm going to grab my baby brush and a little bit of beige. I'm gonna grab some white. I'm going to mix it into that brown, and it's going to come to a nice light sandy color. And then I'm going to use that tiny brush to come in to each area and add a little bit of highlight. Okay. Just a little bit. If you overmix it, it's just gonna all turn to a lighter brown, which is not the end of the world. You don't want to overdo it, just a little bit. Adding a little bit of highlight, making it not one solid color. I've said that in other classes too. It's what it's all about. All right, that looks good. And I've added a highlight, so now I'm going to add a shadow. I'm going to use a darker brown by just making it a little bit of like a kind of grayish, blackish brown, almost black. You can use black too if you'd like. But this is going to be my darkest shadow here. in the foreground. I'm also going to do a little shadow here right along the shoreline, like so. And a few brush strokes just to add some interest, kind of going along the direction there. And then on either side of my tree, I am gonna have like a nice outline. But then once I get up into the tree, I'm kind of allowing the brush strokes to go a little bit rogue. So it does not have to be a perfect outline. And once I get up here, I'm probably just gonna do one side of the branch. This ends up too thick if you try to outline both sides. Like so. It looks better, I think. To just add one little swipe of shadow. Okay, looking good. And then a few kind of coming up here from the ground and through the middle part of the tree. You can do kind of squiggle here at the base as well, and that gives it a very kind of sketchy, like illustrator-y feel. Okay, now leave your tree alone for just a moment because we need it to dry ever so slightly so that we can put our lovely fall foliage on top of it. So let's go ahead and rinse our tiny brush pretty good. And we're going to take some of the vibrant blue and go back into our water for a moment. So this is going to be a blue that does not have gray in it. A little bit darker maybe than a sky blue. And I'm just gonna come in here and add a few streaks here and there. They're gonna be small when they're back there. And then when you come closer, you're gonna get a little bit longer. A little bit of water is going to be your best friend here. There we go. And don't stress out if you've done a few stripes and it looks too stripy, because if you take a little bit of water, you just kind of keep doing a few more. You can also take a little bit of a lighter blue again and kind of tone it back down. Okay, so any area that you go too thick, you can just add that light blue right back over it. Okay, just kind of, again, mixing it up, making it not one solid color. Light blue and vibrant blue. And I'm gonna do that over here as well. Just a little bit. It's a pretty calm day in my imagination, so not too much water movement. Okay, that looks pretty. I like it. Now I'm going to take my medium-sized brush again. I'm going to do the final step, which is going to be our gorgeous fall foliage. So I'm going to start with a light orange with probably equal parts of yellow and orange. I'm going to add a few brush strokes of that really gorgeous vibrant orange, kind of like around each of the end of my branches. You might pull up a little bit of color. That's okay, but don't get too muddy if that does happen. Okay, now I'm going to rinse that brush again. Now I'm going to grab some light yellow. I'm going to put that right on top. And ideally, everything kind of blends nicely without picking up too much of that brown underneath. I'm going to bring it a little bit further out over here as well. maybe a little bit more brown in there than I might like, but I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens. So don't hate it. I think I'll just kind of blend that all nicely like so, and then maybe add a little bit fresh yellow on top, just because I want it really bold. But that is very pretty, I must admit. It is very like natural looking. I'm gonna get a few, yeah, there we go. Good swipes of yellow in there, and maybe some really vibrant orange. Gorgeous, there we go. Ooh, I like that a lot. Okay, feeling it. A little bit here and there with that bright orange as well. Okay, one final step. I'm gonna rinse my brush, and just because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, I'd like to have a little bit more clean yellow. And you can finesse your tree however you see fit. But I think some really vibrant yellow, yeah, in there is just really gonna pop. Okay, you could even add red. You can make your tree however you like. It doesn't even have to be fall. I just happen to love fall. Okay, that looks good. And now with my baby brush, I'm going to grab just a little bit of black. I'm going to add a little bit of like a sketch element around the outside of my foliage now that I've fully filled it in. Very gentle. This is sort of like that really light scribble. When you're a little kid and you're mad or scribbling like that, you want to kind of have that same finesse, but very, very, very light-handed. Okay, so cute. Love it. Okay. While I was doing that black, I just had this urge to come over here with it and do a nice clean line right there. Okay, I think that looks pretty cute. Let me know what you thought of today's painting in the comments section. I think that's all I have for you today. I'd love to see you over in the art club, and until next time, stay creative.